we went grocery shopping, and it was like we were all living in a real world house together. Yeah, it was good. So we were trying to remember the last time we hung out.
Yeah, and I think it was at Abbey Pub.
Right. Is that place still around?
It physically, as a structure, it still exists. I don't think that they're doing anything there anymore.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Was that when Chord played? Was it a Chord?
Yeah.
Show? Okay. I remember having a really good time.
It was a good time, but it was a weird turnout. I feel like there were like 10 people there, and Chord, which most people listening to this probably wouldn't know, is my ambient group, where it's just 5 of us and each of us plays one note and it makes up a chord. And there was a hippie woman doing some crazy rain dance while we were playing. And my dad came out to the show, and he didn't really know what chord was, and he was furious after the show. So that was a weird one for me.
Yeah? Was he upset because he just why was he?
The piece we played that night was super conceptual. It was like we all started on the same note, and then one person would go up an interval, and then another person would go up an interval, and then eventually we all went up an octave and went unison on one note. And then we started going back down the scale, but instead of using like harmonically pleasing intervals, we were going down a half step at a time. So there was just this insane tone cluster for like 15 minutes. And
that'll make Dad angry.
Yeah, my dad was furious. And I showed him we did like charts and notation for it, and I showed it to him. He was like, "Why didn't you show this notation to the audience before you played?" Just like, I don't know.
Is he a musician? It sounds like
okay.
It sounds like he knows. Okay, he's like, the process is important. Yeah. Okay.
So he got it once I explained it. But I could understand why if you went to see your son's band play and it's just harrowing noise for 15 minutes, that you might be a little bit disappointed.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
The Kinsellas are obviously a family concern. Do you have any interesting situations like that with family members that came out and maybe didn't like totally get the vibe?
Everyone's pretty supportive. We're there hasn't been anyone angry at any of our shows for what we're doing. But yeah, we're like, I guess the 3 of us are, Mike and Tim and I we obviously play quite a bit, and we're kind of the only ones in the family that like do that regularly. I mean, we have some other cousins and stuff like play guitar.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, nothing. I don't have a good story about a relative being angry at one of our shows.
Were you part of the Winter Wonderland sing-along on the Very Punk Christmas double 7-inch?
Oh, no, I wasn't, but I had that 7-inch. I remember getting it. My sister got it, and she got another Captain Jazz 7-inch too. I think we must have gone to Chicago, and then she got those. I think Tim and Mike must have given them to my sister, who's older than me. I didn't know that they played in cool bands until like I've come like 5 years younger than Tim.
Okay.
2.5 years younger than Mike, and like that's a big enough of an age difference when you're younger.
Yeah.
You know, when you're like, if you have I remember hanging out at Tim's graduation party when he's like 18 and I'm like 13, and that's a huge. You're in much different parts of your life at those ages.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't really hip to what they were doing until I was maybe a few years later. But yeah.
I remember that age well. I remember one time being at a show at Fireside Bowl, and a friend of mine and I hitched a ride with like, I think Jason Mojica and like maybe Mark Ruvolo to some party after the show.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, my friend and I had no conception that we were going to end up like at some city adult party, and then we were like, wait, we've got to go home. How do we get home? I think we asked like whoever drove us, and they were like, yeah, I don't know how you're getting home. Like, fuck.
This is pre-Lyft, pre-Uber.
Yeah.
You just kind of get stranded.
Yeah.
I remember going to punk shows. I would go see, when I lived in Minneapolis as a teenager, I would go see Dillinger 4 play all the time.
Yeah, fuck
and
yeah.
I was like way into them and would go and see them in their basement. But I was like so shy and like nervous. I'd just like sit in the corner kind of sweating and while they were like having a raging party. But it was great. Yeah.
The first show I ever played, I was in a horrible pseudo-punk band called The Mighty Chuck. And our first show was in Roy Burgess's basement in Skokie and the pre-Dillinger 4 band Anchor House. It was their last show. Oh. And I remember during their set, Pat Costello saying, "The Mighty Chuck, give it up for the Mighty Chuck. If you guys stick at it when you're 18, you're going to rule," which was very generous of him because it took much longer than that before I was playing listenable music. But that always stuck with me.
Yeah, he was a really nice guy. He was like insane during their shows. I remember we set up a show for them in some suburb, like New Brighton in Minneapolis, which isn't a suburb that anyone would go to see a show. But like our band was playing, we're like, just ask them, they might say yes. So they came out and played, and like Patty was playing. By the end of the set, his finger was like bleeding, and he used crazy glue to glue the wound together. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's insane. And then he came up to me after we played. He was like, I really like your playing. We play like kind of like a similar way. And I was like, what? I'm not bleeding. That's cool.
That was like a low-key threat. He wants to watch you bleed.
It was very charming. I was like, wow, this guy's actually really cool, even though he seems like a maniac.
Yeah, they were always really nice.
On the plane out here, I listened to your new record, which is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I was trying to think of similarities between the bands that we play in now. I think there are quite a few. Some people may say that they sound very different, but I think there are actually quite a few similarities.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I'm going to go off of memory. I'm trying to not pick up my phone. One of them was that I think that your song structures are similar to ours in a way where we're not like often returning to things. It's kind of like the compositions are more like A to B. Maybe you go back to A, then maybe you go to a C part, and then you kind of hint at the B, but then go to the D part, which you haven't heard yet before. It's cool. I really like it.
Yeah, to me, songs are more interesting, especially as an instrumental band. Like I find songs to be much more interesting if there's sort of like a journey where you're not going back and forth between parts. You're just sort of like on a trajectory towards something.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that's the way to go. Let's see. What was another thing? I was jotting stuff down on the plane. The guitar interplay. Mm-hmm. There's some, there's no vocals in Pelican, so it's like it's a very like guitars. It's like you're hearing the guitars is like the focus of it.
Yeah.
For me anyway, when I was listening to it, and there's some really cool interplay, timing stuff, and also thickening of like adding thickening the chords in like really cool ways. Mm-hmm. And there's I haven't played guitar in a long time, but there's like one thing that I recognize is like, man, when you play a power chord on like, say you're on like the on the A string of traditional tuning on the A string, but you add the fifth below it, it gets you that growl, and I love it. Anyways, I think I heard that a few times and I was like, oh, that's badass.
Thanks so much.
I love it. It feels really good, and like recording sounds really good. It's super meaty. Yeah, and of course there's a ton of guitar interplay in American football too. That's kind of like a thing.
Let me ask you this about American football. One thing that I think stands out to a lot of people about the band is the use of like odd time signatures. When you guys are writing, and that's something that we do a little bit of too, when you're writing, are you guys like doing math, or is it just sort of like playing by feel and the feel just happens to be in these weird zones?
We try as hard as we can to do it by feel. Mm-hmm. I try to not count unless I have to.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. Like, I don't know what time signatures a lot of the things are in. Well, Steve Holmes, who plays guitar, he loves to figure stuff out like that and kind of count it out. And I think it helps for some people to get the numbers in their mind, to contextualize it in a different way, to help you play it. But I try to not count, and I think I used to play also in a lot of bands that weren't very tasteful or good. Like, we've all been there. And I used to play in super county bands. Like, we're like, okay, we would be talking about numbers more than we would be talking about the music of it. And
that was like a whole Midwest thing for a while, I think.
I did it in the Midwest. I was there. And it was cool. And like, I'm so happy I did it. And I feel like it got my chops up to where it feels naturally. Like I can feel odd rhythms in like a natural way because I did it for a while like that.
Yeah.
And so it totally helps now.
I think that's sort of what it was like for me too, because my interest in weird meters really came from the Sunny Day Real Estate second album, the self-titled one.
The self-titled one, which
it's got the pink
one?
cover.
Oh yeah. Oh man, yeah.
They have that song 5/4 on there, but like that. Even that song is not in 5/4 for most of it, and then like there's all these other weird time signatures, and like I used to drive around, in my teenage years, listening to that record over and over again and just counting like on the driver's, on the steering wheel.
Yeah.
And it made me interested in writing like that, and I would do a lot of counting, but then over the years, it just sort of infected the way I hear music to the point that I just don't even think to count when I'm writing a part. And it's only when I'm showing the drummer that they're like, wait, what are you doing?
Yeah, totally. Did you listen to any Shudder to Think when you were younger?
No, not really.
Oh, that was a big one. And they were, for me anyway, and they did a lot of odd time signature stuff that felt very natural. But it was one of those things where I listened to it and be like, God, what is that? What is happening right there? How do they all know? Yeah, super formative band for me. But I was also way into Sunny Day Real Estate, and especially that Pink album was
it was a game changer.
Yeah.
And then they just sort of dissipated after it.
Yeah.
They came back eventually.
I went and saw Jamie Enoch's Return of the Frog Queen tour recently. That was like a few months ago, maybe 4 months ago.
Yeah, I guess I feel like I heard about it.
Did you get into that album?
I loved it, yeah. I thought it was great.
Yeah, me too. That was like another huge one for me. And I went to that show and I was like, I totally got weepy, like twice. I'm a grown man now. It doesn't happen that often. But it really hit it because I saw him play on the first tour when it happened. Like they came through Minneapolis and played first staff, and I don't remember there being a lot of people there. Mm-hmm. But I just listened to it over and over again, and yeah, it was so great to go back and see it again and be like, oh, I still have these emotions. I'm still there.
They're buried deep inside.
Yeah, thank you.
In a way, I feel like more emotional now. Well, not more emotional than I was when I was a teenager, but I feel like the most emotional now as I have as an adult. And I think a lot of it has to do with parenthood, but then some of it has to do with like how fucking fucked up everything is all the time now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's totally like messing with my equilibrium.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I think we were texting about this. I was like, "What's up? We haven't talked in so long. I have 2 kids now, and like you have kids. You have kids too.
Yeah,
you have 2.
Yeah, 2.
Boys and
both boys.
Wow.
There's going to be a lot of testosterone in the house. I'm very freaked out about that.
That's okay. I think you can help. I mean, you can sort of guide. I have 2 girls.
Okay.
So I'm going to be the odd one out, but I feel like I'm not a very like testosterone heavy kind of person. So I think it's cool. It'll be fine. I wanted to have a boy so I could help shape a young man to be like a respectful man.
Yeah, of course.
Because I feel like a lot of them need some help.
Yeah.
I've met a lot of guys who are like, oh God.
Yeah, most of them could use some help. And that's it's an awesome responsibility.
Yeah.
To have that. But I think so far it feels like we're doing right by Damien, our eldest, and by the world. I mean, he seems like a lot more empathic than other kids his age, so hopefully that just carries through.
Yeah. How old is he?
He's 6.5.
6.5?
Turning 7 in the summer.
Cool. Yeah, I have no idea. I have a 4-month-old and a 2.5-year-old.
Okay.
So I'm kind of those. I've yet to experience like the sort of the development that happens. Getting into the. Yeah, I'm still at the sort of beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a 2-month-old, so our little ones are not that far apart.
Oh, wait, what? You have a 2-month-old?
Yeah.
A 6-year-old and a 2-month-old?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. Congrats.
Yeah. Damien lobbied very hard for a sibling.
He wanted one.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
It worked out. I think for everybody.
Yeah, that's great. Wow, 2 months. Well, congrats for even being out here.
Yeah.
Making it out. That's cool. I have one funny thing that I thought of on the way up here. There's a Pelican show flyer that is my favorite show flyer.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It's I brought it up on my phone. I'll just describe it. I'm sure you know what it is. It was from New Year's Eve 2015 when there's competing American football and Pelican shows happening in Chicago.
Yeah.
And on the American football flyer, tour poster, show poster, there's, the picture of the house, like the sort of iconic house.
From the cover of your first album.
Yeah. And then on the Pelican one, there's a picture of a very similar looking house, but it's on fire and it's being burned down.
Yeah.
What's great about it is that the address of the American football house is 702 in real life, and you can see it on the poster. But the address of the Pelican house was 704, so it's just next door.
That's
There's
accurate.
a lot of thought put into this poster. And I love it. And we saw it, we were like, that is so badass. Like, it makes it on so many levels, like competing shows in the same city. One's going to be burning down, and like, that's great.
What is so interesting about that poster is that Jay Ryan did the Pelican show poster, and he did it as a reaction to the poster for your show. He didn't know about the cover of the album. He didn't know that it was like this iconic thing and that was like a reference to an album cover. So he posted that on like gig posters or something like that, and everybody was like, oh no, shots fired, like Pelicans got beef with American football. And then I remember like a mutual friend of both bands posted something about it on Instagram, and Larry was like, oh no, people think we've got beef. And like I think he got on the phone with Mike or something like that.
Really?
Just called him to let him know, hey, there's no drama. Like,
Honest mistake.
It's like really just trying to do an homage and do some,
Oh my God.
do something strategic and funny about the two shows being on the same
That
night.
is hilarious. Yeah, because I know he's buddies with Dan Black, who's the guy who did our poster. Yeah. They're tight. So that is hilarious. There was a show where we had in Chicago at Lincoln Hall where we had the house sort of backdrop up, and Joan of Arc opened up the show, and they had they were planning on doing projections. I was like, cool. Well, and then we didn't see it until they started playing, and they just projected fire, but it was being projected onto our backdrop. So it looked like they were burning the house down too. There's lots of people like getting ready to burn this house down. Please nobody don't get any ideas. And I had, yeah.
This just follows you guys.
I know.
People really want to burn that house down.
And when we were talking about the album art for the LP3 that just came out, one idea that I had that was pretty much immediately shot down. I was like, guys, we can't do the house anymore. What if we did a shot in the middle of nowhere of a house just completely burned to the ground, like charred, just like ashes, like you can't even. And I told my friend Corey, who's playing vibes with us, he's like, did you guys make like a death metal album? Because that's what it's gonna look like if you do that artwork. That's what people are gonna think. I'm like, okay, maybe that's a little over the top.
I would definitely listen to your death metal record. I'd be down to hear the American football death metal record.
Yeah, I wonder. Mike's really into metal, actually.
Really?
Yeah, he is. More than I even realized. He's like.
I read an interview with him recently where he claimed he doesn't listen to music anymore. He only listens to sports.
That might also be true. He doesn't. I don't pay any attention to sports, but he did a playlist that was like all Iron Maiden songs recently.
Nice.
I think that's what it was. Yeah. I kind of missed the boat on metal.
I was late to metal. I discovered metal in junior high school, but then like after punk came into my life, it kind of like, it was almost like a flood that washed everything else away.
Yeah.
And then I had to build back into other music over time. Because like REM was like my favorite band in the world, and then punk happened, and I was like, REM is lame. Like no notion of the fact that they had like a connection to punk and all of that. And yeah, it's just funny how that happened.
Yeah. I got really into Metallica kind of like when my sister, she's a couple years older than me, and she got into all good music, and then that's how I got into it, was through her. And I remember her playing Metallica like in the car, and we'd go on like a family trip somewhere, and I was like, what is this? They sound kind of angry, and every song kind of sounds the same. I can't really tell the difference. I was like curious about it because I'd only listen to songs like on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
But then I really got into it, like bought all their albums, and now I super love Metallica. At least their earlier stuff. I had kind of lost track with what they're doing.
They're sort of a first 4 albums band.
Yeah.
Not unlike Black Sabbath, but they have records past the first 4 that are listenable. It's just, I feel like that there's something about that era of metal maybe where...
Yeah. They seemed like they were really doing interesting things like on Injustice for All and like Master of Puppets. They had some really cool musical interludes and things that sounded, I don't know, like smart and interesting.
Yeah, and the lyrics on Injustice for All are so well-meaning in terms of political conscientiousness. But it's just so weird the direction they went after that.
Yeah, I kind of lost track of them. They're still around, right? It's this like they're like a juggernaut. They'll be around forever.
I'm certain. Yeah, they're still around.
I just thought of one more similarity between the two bands: guitar tunings. I noticed that you guys, I think it was on this. Maybe I hope I put the songs on my iPod in the right order. Maybe I listened to your album in the right order. But I think it was like the second song. Maybe it was the second song in. It became clear like that your guitars are dropped too, like in a drop tuning.
Yeah, so we play 5 half steps down. We're in standard tuning, but it's B to B.
Down to B.
Yeah.
Do you up the gauge on your strings?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
What gauge? We can get super nerdy.
Like, I'm not good with the technical stuff. The Diodario E22s or something. I guess they're jazz strings. I don't know what they are.
That's cool. I'm not. Yeah, we drop everything down. Like I play. I have a low C sharp, so I'm not quite there. We're not quite that low. But I love how they sound when strings are slack like that. When you dig into them when you play them low, there's this growl, and you can hear it. You can hear it from slacking and like.
They kind of resonate more too. Yeah.
It's cool.
It's interesting that you're in C sharp. The other band I'm in, RLYR, I use that same B tuning, but our bass player is in C sharp.
Oh, okay.
And he has to do all kinds of calculations to figure out parts.
It's tough. I'm actually kind of lost because I grew up like most people playing in standard tuning, and then having to switch it around. Like the template is gone. I'm like, I don't know where an E is on this thing. I'm like trying to get better at it, but I'm still kind of lost. I just know like the relationships between everything, but getting around, like finding a note, I'm like looking at the tuner, like I think that's it. If I have to hit something specific. I wonder if there's any other questions that I had. Oh, you play with brothers in your band.
Yeah.
You have a brother rhythm section.
It's true.
How does it, so you're between them, I think sonically, you fit in between them in the guitar because you got the bass and the drums. The drums are very like high and low, like cymbals and then like thuddiness, and you're kind of right in between. Is your relationship with them also like that, where do you get stuck in between there? Do they argue and you're like, guys?
We had a period which was like that. They come from like a super like big family where it seems like there's a real focus on family in their clan, and so we always get like tons of relatives at our local shows and stuff like that. And I think because they grew up so close, but their personalities are so different, that after many years on tour, it brought out conflicts that maybe would have been able to simmer otherwise. But after we stopped touring regularly, everything kind of came back into focus, and now like they're like the tightest friends I can imagine.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Touring can really do that to you. It can, even just, I do it less and less just because I'm having kids now, but even just having time away from like my wife at home, Jamie, who I love dearly. Mother's Day is in 2 days, so I'm not gonna like, but when you have time away, you come home and you're like, oh man, this is what I like. I missed you.
Yeah.
But you're with the same person every day. You don't really think about it. You just kind of get into a routine. but I forget. I'm like, oh, I like laugh every day with you, and you help me to do that, and like my life is better. So it's nice.
And you can get to that zone in bands too if you don't tour 6 to 7 months out of the year. Because I get in a van with those guys and I'm not like, ugh.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's so good to spend time with you guys. Mm-hmm. You're my buddies.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, in a band, Make Believe, that I used to play in with Tim, we definitely kind of got through there was some rough times in there between the two of us. Not that we ever really talked about, but there'd just be tension. Mm-hmm. But now we see each other like once every couple months or something, and it's awesome. I'm like, this is great.
You guys got to tour with Joan of Arc, didn't you? American football?
We did some shows with them. I don't think we really toured.
Yeah, I feel like I remembered seeing some shows, but that would have been
shoot, did we? Man, my memory's going pretty bad. Do you have any touring coming up?
Yeah, we're doing a tour in June, and then we're going to Europe in October.
Cool.
Yeah.
How long is that Europe trip?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
That's about the maximum we can do.
Yeah.
Especially right now with a 2-month-old.
Yeah.
It's trying to get away for longer than that is really hard. We've done 3-week tours in the past since our hiatus, and that can work, but it is a little bit you feel so stranded away from your family after a period of time,
Totally. So I'm thinking about the hippie woman that was dancing at the chord show, and I was thinking about how crowds will be different at Pelican shows versus American football shows. Do crowds ever get because the music is very physical, Pelican, I can hear everyone playing, the energy that goes into playing. You know what I mean? I think with American football, it's more precise and it's relaxed and I don't know.
You make 5/8 sounds so smooth though.
But so at American football shows, everyone's kind of watching, just kind of checking out. But imagine at Pelican shows, that can bring, especially with it being loud and stuff. Does it ever get out of control? Not with hippie dancing, but people kind of getting physical, and you're like, whoa, let's keep it cool. Has that happened?
I don't think I've ever had to tell an audience to chill out.
Yeah.
There's definitely some thrashers and whatnot, and there have very occasionally been pits, but it tends to be pretty chill.
Yeah.
We did one show, we did this really weird tour called The Taste of Chaos. Did you ever hear of that?
No.
It was started by Kevin Lyman, who did Warped Tour, and it was sort of the metal Warped Tour.
Okay.
And the headliners on that year were Thrice and Deftones. And we were definitely the odd band out.
Yeah.
We were the weird arty band on this tour. And we played at Long Beach Arena, which is where Iron Maiden recorded Live After Death. And that will always be a special show in my memory because of that. But also I remember some dude got on stage, and it must have been a 15-foot barricade between the stage and the crowd. And I don't know where he came from, but he got on the stage and attempted a stage dive and went smack into the barricade.
Oh my God.
It was the most painful thing I've ever seen. So yeah, I guess there are rare occasions where people get a little too out there.
Yeah.
I hope that guy's okay.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Forum seems pretty chill. I think we're...
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get any thrashers during your set today.
It's seated. There's an amphitheater. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be relaxed. Cool catching up with you.
It was great catching up with you, too. I'm really looking forward to watching your set.
Do you want us to hang out more right now?
Yeah.
Oh, we were going to play.
Why don't we jam?
Okay, let's do it.